Hi, this is Krista at the Secret Yarnery. Today we're going to be learning double crochet. I'll be using a 4.5mm hook just because that's what I have handy, and this regular craft yarn. It's just chunky acrylic, size 4. You can use whatever yarn you have on hand or whatever your project you're working on. So to start, we're going to be making a slip knot and a chain of 10. If you want some tips and tricks on how to do that, I will link a video above. And just make your slip knot, put it on your hook, and chain 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So for double crochet, we do a turning chain of 3. 1, 2, 3. So wrap your yarn, so push your hook down into your yarn and bring your hook up. So you have one wrap of yarn on your hook, and we're going to go into the 4th chain. You can count your chains by these V's. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're going to take our hook. I'm holding my thumb on my loop, on those loops on my hook, so they don't mess me up. And put your hook into that 4th stitch underneath your yarn, turn your hook up and tip your hook up to grab that yarn and just slide it through that stitch. So you brought it to the front, push your hook through and bring that loop up so it's the same size as that middle one on your hook. Push your hook down into your yarn and tip your hook up and turn your hook so it's facing down and bring it through the first 2 loops on your hook. And then resize your yarn again, push those stitches back up towards your thumb rest or your handle. And we'll do that again. Push your hook down into your yarn, pull your hook up, turn your hook so it's hook facing down, and slide it through those 2 loops on your hook, and then make it the right size again. So that was your first double crochet. So double crochet is, I remember it as double take off. So wrap your yarn, just push your hook down into your yarn and bring your hook up towards yourself so that loop is on your hook. And I put my thumb on my hook now. So my finger on my hook, so I'm holding it. And I'm going to go into the next loop. So that's this little crescent shape here. I'm going to just go into there. So I'm underneath my yarn, tip my hook up so I've grabbed my yarn and turn my hook a bit down so it's snagged on that hook part. Bring it through my loop and then resize everything. So now I'm pulling it up so it's the same size as that loop on my hook, that center loop. Now I'm pushing my hook down into my yarn and turning it as I lift it up and slide it through those first 2 loops on my hook. Make it big again and grab my yarn again, turning my hook and bringing it through the last 2 loops on my hook, and then I'm making it big again by pushing it up to my thumb rest or my handle, depending on the hook you're using. So grab your yarn into the next stitch, so the next V, 1 loop on your hook, grab your yarn and bring it back, move your fingers over so you're holding underneath that stitch, and pull your hook up so this loop that you just made is the same size as the center one. It's a bit tighter, I guess, but about the same size as that one. Then wrap your yarn and take off the first 2, resize by pushing them back up, wrap your yarn and take off the last 2. Resize by pushing it back up onto your hook. So now we've made 3 double crochets. So wrap your yarn, go into the next loop, the next stitch, 1 loop on your hook, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn, go into the next stitch, 1 loop on your hook, grab your yarn and bring it back, move your fingers over so you're holding underneath that stitch, pull your hook up so everything's the same size as your center loop, grab your yarn, bring it through the first 2, grab your yarn again, bring it through the last 2. Wrap your yarn, go into the next stitch, grab your yarn and bring it back, move your fingers over so you're holding underneath your stitch that you're working on, pull everything up a bit, grab your yarn and take off the first 2, grab your yarn and take off the last 2. So there's your double take off for double crochet. wrap your yarn, go into the next stitch, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn, go into the next stitch, 1 loop on your hook, grab your yarn and bring it back, pull everything up, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So keep doing this. Oh, we only have 2 more to do. That's exciting. So last one, wrap your yarn, go into that last chain, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So now we finished our first row and we should have 10 stitches. So we don't count this chain 3 on the edge, we just count these stitches here. 1. So you can count them 2 ways. You can turn them up and count these V's. Let me take that hook out for a minute. You can turn your work up and count these V's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Or you can count with your thumb and finger just by wiggling in between these stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. We're not counting our chain in this pattern, but patterns will tell you that it'll either count as a double crochet or it won't. Sometimes you even do a different amount. It'll say chain 1 or chain 2. It won't always be a chain 3, but the pattern that you're working on, it'll tell you what to do. Now to turn your work, I'm just going to do a chain 1 and turn your work. Now I'm going to go into this first stitch right here. If we do the whole chain 3, it can mess up your stitch count, or you can use the chain 3 as your first double crochet, but then you get a bit of a space. So this is how I like to do it. Wrap your yarn and go into that very first stitch, and now you're going to make your double crochet. So there's take off 2 and take off 2. So now your double crochet on the side is a bit thicker, but there's no big space and it doesn't loop out as much as this guy does. So we'll do 1 double crochet into each stitch going all the way back. Your stitches are here. If you turn your work up, you're going to see your V's, and that's always where your stitches are. It's always these V's when you turn the work towards yourself. So you're going to go into each of these spaces, getting both of those loops of the V on your hook. So wrap your yarn and go into the next stitch, both parts of the V on your hook, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. Wrap your yarn, go into the next stitch, grab your yarn and bring it back, pull it up a bit, grab your yarn and take off 2, grab your yarn and take off 2. So we're going to do this all the way to the end, and then I'll show you how to turn again, and I'll show you how to find your last stitch. Those are the only tricky parts for new crocheters, is recognizing your stitches, and that just comes with time. So our last stitch is right here, that last V. If you turn your work up and get your hook out of the way, you can see that there's still a V down there. We want to go into that guy. So into that V, grab your yarn and bring it back, wrap your yarn and take off 2, wrap your yarn and take off 2. So now that is again 10 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we're going to chain 1 to turn. Wrap your yarn and go into this very first stitch. We're going to make our first one here. And double crochet all the way back along this row. I'll meet you at the end to show you what your last stitch looks like. At the end of the row, we have our funny stitch here. If you lay it down, you can see that it looks weird, but that's because you haven't gone into that last stitch. So wrap your yarn and you're going to go into this If you tip your work towards yourself, you can see the V. You're going to go into that last stitch there, and that's where you're making your last double crochet. And now you'll see your edges are nice and straight, which is what we like. So now keep going, doing as many rows as you need to do for your project. And you can even do bigger chain ones on the side if you want to do like a bigger chain one to make your work nice and straight. When you've made as many rows as you want, I have done 4 rows. To fasten off, you're just going to chain 1 and then cut your yarn and pull your hook up and your yarn through, and then just snug that down so it's nice and tight. And there is your double crochet. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share. And thanks for watching. Stay hooked. So here's the difference between the 4 basic crochet stitches: single crochet, half double, double crochet, and treble crochet. Single crochet is half the height of double crochet. So double crochet is double the height of single crochet, and treble crochet is triple the height of single crochet. And half double is right in between the height of single and double.